what would you like to start with?
How about we discuss the Fontaines DC Dogrel album first of all. So this was released on the 12th of April 2019. There's 11 songs in it. It's approximately 39 minutes and 53 seconds long. I hadn't heard of them before. I was kind of pretty late to the party. It wasn't until our mutual friend, young Thomas Page, introduced them to me that I first started listening to them. Ever the arbiter of kind of good music. He's normally quite a good judgment of kind of good music. It was him that first introduced me to the likes of the Daikinis, the XX, that type of thing. He first introduced me to, it was the second song in the album, Sha Sha Sha, which I wasn't particularly enamoured with at first, but the more I listen to the album, it's phenomenal. It's an album that I keep coming back to time and time again. I think it's absolutely class. They're a band that are originally from Dublin, and like I said to you kind of earlier on before we first started the podcast, I wasn't too sure what the kind of title of the album meant. I'd originally thought that it was some sort of maybe Irish or kind of Dublin slang, but when I kind of looked into it, the word means poetry that is irregular in rhythm and rhyme. Alternatively, it can also mean verse which has a monotonous rhythm, easy rhyme, and cheap or trivial meaning. And although I don't believe the kind of latter to be kind of true of the album, certainly the kind of front man, I forget his name off the top of my head.
Brian Chatton.
Brian Chatton.
I don't know how you.
We're probably not
that.
doing the pronunciation any justice.
Grian could be Grian, like Darrell Brian, like Grian Chatton. Let's go with that.
Aye. Like I said, I don't believe the kind of latter to be true. I don't think there's anything cheap or kind of trivial about the kind of album. However, he does sing in this kind of weird's maybe not the right word, but kind of like a monotonous, offbeat kind of rhythm. And interestingly, I read an article from The Guardian by a guy called Dean Van Nugent, which was released on the 5th of the 4th 2019, where the frontman Graham Chatton, who we've just kind of mentioned, said that he thought that their music sounds like buses and trains and just hordes of people in particular streets in Dublin, and I suppose that's kind of keeping with this kind of offbeat.
It's an interesting description.
Rhythm and rhyme. It is.
I think I've written down basically the exact same definition as you have. Poetry that's irregular in rhyme and rhythm, and that's generally considered derogatory, like a derogatory sort of term. So I think it's quite an apt description for his style of singing, but it certainly shouldn't be considered derogatory in this case, because I think it's a big asset to the album, and it was actually a barrier to me getting into this album in the first place, because he doesn't sing, he just kind of talks, and a lot of the lyrics are difficult to interpret, and sometimes it's there's some repetition that's a bit, like you say, monotonous. So when I kind of first listened to this album, I didn't find it that exciting, certainly from a vocal perspective, but there was some really interesting musicianship behind it that got me interested, and it just was a matter of getting used to that style of vocal, and now I think it's really good. Sha Sha Sha, you mentioned, not sure that would be the best song to introduce somebody to Fontaines DC. It's a good song, sounds like opening bars remind me of like London's Calling by the Clash for some reason. Just that first kind of opening thing in it, it's like, I mean, Fontaines DC are like a post-punk band.
That's probably how I would describe them.
But there are some classic punk sounds on this as well, which is quite cool to listen to. Mm-hmm. They also reminded me a little bit of like bands like Idols, because of that sort of non-singing vocal performance. So Idols are maybe a bit more gruff and in your face, but there's that sort of similar like wordy kind of lyrics, sort of talking. But I would say that Fontaines DC have got much more varied and complex musicianship than a band like Idols. I don't know what your sort of standout songs are on this.
As we said earlier on, like there's very few in this album for me that don't stand out. I think the first song of the album, Big, which was kind of released as a single on the 7th of February earlier on this year, is an absolute banger. Like, you know, it's got some quite unusual lyrics that, you know, like you said, you know, it does sound like kind of poetry, and I've kind of heard them actually likened to like Sir James Joyce, so it's like a famous Irish kind of poet and writer. And that song opens with this kind of declaration of intent that kind of Dublin in the rain is mine, which is kind of repeated numerous times, and then he later goes on to say that he's going to be big. You know, my childhood will smile, but I'm going to be big. And it does seem like we've said kind of previous about kind of some of the other artists that we've covered, namely Black Futures. It does seem like this kind of declaration of intent, like they're going to be here to stay.
Yeah, he's basically saying, like,
this is it.
yeah. We're on to something here. We're gonna be massive, whether you like it or not, kind of thing. I think he says, does he not say my childhood is small?
Oh, is it?
I think that's what he says. So I think he says my childhood was small, but I'm gonna be big. So he's sort of saying, you know, I don't come from much, but I'm gonna be something.
Yeah. That kind of makes more sense than my childhood will smile. Yeah.
But then the lyrics on here are really difficult to interpret on a lot of these songs. So, and there's some of this stuff I've had to look up what they're even about. I mean, Big's fairly obvious.
Yeah.
But there's stuff on here that I have no idea what's going on.
Is sha a thing? Like, is that something that people say? Or is that...
I don't know. I couldn't find out if that was like a colloquial sort of thing, but I don't know if it's just like a sort of placeholder sort of... Well, it's just a load of sha, like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, aye, okay. Yeah, just a kind of filler, as it were.
Yeah, I couldn't find any evidence of it being like a colloquial term, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that can correct us. Mm-hmm. There's some good lyrics in Sha actually. There's a bit about a cabbie pisses on the wheel of his own car.
Yeah,
and later on there's manic and retching like a drunken perv.
that's the lyric about the taxi driver is what I've got kind of written down here. It kind of paints a pretty bleak picture of kind of city life, and I think maybe city life in particular at night.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of ends with saying, "Here comes the sun." That's another one done. That's another one done. So that's another night over.
Yeah, absolutely. The song comes straight after Sha. Actually, Too Real. Like I was talking about this sort of musicianship, and it opens a lot like a Pearl Jam song for me.
Right, okay.
There's a couple of songs, Immortality and Rearview Mirror, and it sounds like a bit of a mixture of those two songs. And I'm a pretty big Pearl Jam fan, so anything that sounds like Pearl Jam will just suck me in. And it's got like that kind of groove of a band that have played together for a long time. They just sort of lock into it. So it's a really cool sort of rhythm that it starts with, and that kind of repeats throughout the song. But one of the things with his the way he sings is you've got this kind of intro build, and you expect like a big scream to come in as everything kicks in, and he just sort of goes ah.
But it's one of my favourite songs on the album, and I find myself joining in with that whenever I listen to it. I think it's a banger of a tune.
It's not even like, I think we both like overdid it there. It's like
it's
probably like not a big.
It's probably less intense than what we just did.
But it is really good. It kind of amuses me every time, but like you say, I join in with it as well. So I've written here, it's like you're at the dentist,
and the dentist is actually told to say
at the dentist. So, but it's really fun. And then after that, it just like there's that sort of Pearl Jam groove, and then it just goes into this mad experimental apocalyptic guitar slide, and I've put, it sounds like someone hitting an electric fence with a shovel. There's like a really weird like like electric, like it's like somebody bashing their guitar with a hammer kind of thing,
in combination with this really heavy echoey drum sound as well at some points.
Yeah. So yeah, Two Real's a great song. It's got a really cool rumbling bass outro. One of the things I'm not too much a fan of is this repeated line of "Is it too real for ya?" And only because it's the delivery of like, "Is it too real for ya?"
Yeah.
And then because he repeats it so many times, it does get a bit too real for me.
There's a point where he kind of changes. He changes how he delivers that line at one point where it's like, "Is it too real for ya?" As opposed to kind of shouting it. I think it's just on one occasion kind of towards the end of the song.
Yeah, which, I mean, you can imagine that if it was being quite powerful, if it was sung and there's the changes and you could sort of join in with that singing along, but it's just spoken, so it's more than spoken.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
doing him, not doing enough justice, just saying he's speaking, because there is a tune to the way he talks. It isn't just
there's a melody
reading it off the page. Yeah. So I mean, like you said, we could talk about most of the songs here, but any other particular ones you want to talk about?
Television Screens, which is the kind of the next song after Too Real. I'd say it was kind of a lot more melodic than the kind of previous numbers. For some reason it kind of reminded me of Smith's song. I don't know why. Okay. I think just in terms of kind of like content and this kind of stuff that they're kind of talking about. Roy's tune was another kind of chilled out number. I was particularly taken by Lots, which is the kind of 7th track on the album.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of fantastic. That opening riff in particular reminded me of the Cure song, The Forest.
Okay.
And then kind of towards the end, kind of like the outro, which kind of starts at the kind of 2:53 minute to the kind of 4:57 mark, which kind of brings about the end of the song. Reminded me of kind of Echo and the Bunnymen as well, so kind of keeping with that kind of post-punk sound that we kind of mentioned earlier on.
It's just this sort of haunting, like la la la.
That's it, exactly.
It reminded me of Golden Brown by the Stranglers.
Oh, right,
that sort of spooky bit towards the end where he's sort of singing the Golden Brown part. So it's just that's the kind of thing that I got from that. But for the Lots, I've just written down, I have no idea what the lyrics mean, but it all sounds very grand and meaningful. Full of sadness, troubling and heartbreaking. So I do think it's a really good song, but like, I'm not good at interpreting this kind of poetry.
And that's what it is. I think, that's quite an... It does feel more like poetry than lyrics.
Yeah, and maybe there were multiple interpretations. I think the Lots is an area of Dublin, but I couldn't really figure it out.
I kind of got the interpretation that it was... Is it a bit of drug dealer?
Possibly. Like, there's people stand on street corners, so it could be... I mean, it could just be a sort of...
An area that people...
A downtrodden area with lots of seedy things going on, I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I found it quite difficult to figure it out. You mentioned Roy's tune.
Yeah.
I think it's like the musical canvas that they create on this song. It's really joyful, but the actual lyrics themselves are really sad and lamenting, and it's like about the struggle of working class life and possibly looking back on better times of youth. Like some of the lyrics are, "The breeze in the nighttime would kill you stone dead. It was a message I heard when the company said there is no warning and there is no future." He goes on to say, "I was a cool kid on the curbstone scene, and the lights in my eyes were evergreen, just like you've never seen." I kind of managed to pull out what was going on from this one, and I think the lyrics are really powerful, and they're like, it's a really fun song to join in with. I think the melody on this one is really good to just sing along with. I say sing, but sort of join in with.
Yeah.
So yeah, Roy's tune's definitely a big one for me. Checklist, Reckless. It sort of opens like "God Save the Queen" by the Sex Pistols. It's got that really sort of old school like punk riff, the way that opens, and it kind of goes. It becomes a bit more rock and roll-y. There's actually a Ramones song. It's called "Rock and Roll Radio." It's one of their later tracks where they were produced by Phil Spector, and they took on, well, as the name suggests, they took on a sort of more radio sort of friendly sound. And it just reminds me of that. It's just rock and roll with some saxophone added in, and it's a little bit darker than Rock and Roll Radio. It's kind of a stomping, kind of fist pump, happy radio track, but it's got that similar vibe with maybe just a sort of a little bit of a darker tone. But it's got some. It's actually got some of my favourite lyrics, which is basically just him laying out some descriptions. A sellout is someone who becomes a hypocrite in the name of money. An idiot is someone who lets their education do all of their thinking. Money is the sandpit of the soul. And there's probably more examples. It's got that kind of rip-roaring kind of rock and roll tune behind it while he's just kind of delivering these statements, and they're like just full of truth. It's really powerful. Definitely one of my favourite tracks on the album, at least. I mean, I could talk about every song here to be completely
Liberty
honest.
Bell's kind of worth a mention, isn't it? That's the kind of following song on from kind of Checklist Reckless. It opens with that amazing lyric. You know, I love that violence that you get around here, that kind of ready steady violence, that violent how do you do, which is repeated on numerous occasions throughout the song. I thought it was great as well.
Yeah, again, that's
another one that you kind of join in with.
Yeah, one of the best moments on the album, and again, it's got another sort of old school punk rock guitar riff, like driving drums, and this another song just feels like something that the Ramones might have written. It's more of a sort of post-punk album. There's a lot of stuff for fans of more straight ahead punk rock and old school punk as well on here. And you've got Boys in the Better Land, which is just a kind of straight up banger. It's quite a long song, but with lyrics about getting the hell out of Dodge and looking for a better life elsewhere, and it just sort of, it's got some like jangling guitar riffs, and it just says, you know, doesn't matter what you are, just get out of here. Like, find yourself a better life. Then I suppose something a little bit different, you've got the final track, Dublin City Sky, which is it's pretty much like a trad folk song, and it seems to be about the end of a toxic relationship. And I read up on this song, and there's apparently about the sort of gentrification of Ireland and the death of Ireland's traditional soul, and that there's a sort of focus on money over art and quality of life, but I don't know whether that actually comes through in the lyrics, but that's certainly...
No, I'm trying to think of the lyrical quality, because there's a reference made to, is it my lover wrapping her arms round the flag of power?
Yeah.
And that's kind of seen as being negative in some way, so I don't know.
I'm not sure, like, funnily enough, this is one of the songs I didn't write any lyrics down for.
No,
but
neither did I.
It's basically talks about sort of going into into a bar, and there's this woman dancing, and he dances around with her, and then she calls him a liar or something like that, and he's like, yeah, I've treated you badly, and then but it's all a bit hazy, yeah, and it's like he meets this woman, falls in love, and then he treats her badly, and then loses her. But it's really difficult to...
It's interesting that you say, though, that it's kind of like a trad folk song, because as we were kind of saying earlier on, it kind of instantly reminded me of a song called The Broad Majestic Shannon, which is a song by the Pogues from, I think it's maybe their third studio album, If I Should Fall From Grace From God. Both songs are kind of similar in terms of their kind of content and kind of overall feel. But interesting, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but for some reason, see the outro, which kind of starts around about the kind of 4-minute mark, it reminded me of early Kings of Leon.
Yeah. I can't think what the outro sounds like right now. So you could be right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, early Kings of Leon, they are essentially a folk band.
In particular, the first album.
Yeah.
Which I can never remember the proper... Is it Young...
Oh, Youth and Young Manhood. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah. So, yeah, you could be right, because that was sort of an indie folk record, I suppose. Aye.
In particular, it's just like, I've kind of made a note here, it's like something to do with the bass line. When the bass line comes in at about the kind of 4:20 mark, it just reminded me of their kind of early songs.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing bad about being likened to early Kings of Leon. You might not want to be likened to like Sex on Fire Kings of Leon, but certainly their early stuff.
Yeah, was really good. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Are you going to rate this album, Christopher?
Am I going to rate it?
Yes. Are we still doing these ratings?
I don't know.
And if so, what would you give?
Do you think we should
Fontaines by DC?
Do you think we should still rate albums? Do you think it's worthwhile?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, we've been doing it up to this point, so
may as well.
we may as well just keep rating them. In that case, I think I'd give it a 9. I think a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really, really good album, and despite it taking me a minute to get into, mostly because of the vocal delivery, I think it's really, really rewarding. There's lots of lyrics to dive into, try and interpret them however way you will. There's some really good musicianship. They're a really good band. Like they lock into a groove. They throw in some weird experimental shit. There's some sort of jazz and sax in there every now and again, and some really great sort of punk rock moments. So yeah, absolutely brilliant album. Easy 9.
Easy 9, possibly 10 out of 10.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Quite a bold statement, right enough, but yeah. I really enjoyed it, yeah. So yeah, I'd be very tempted to give it a 10 out of 10.
Well,
there we have it.
There we have it. Okay, so that was Dogrel by Fontaines DC, the debut album.
Yeah.
By Fontaines DC. I think we forgot to mention.
You get around here, that kind of ready, steady violence. I was down the bottom half of some old bar in Chinatown.